Hello and welcome to WESR 103.3 Shore Made Music, another segment of Ted's Guitar Tips. And I have a very special guest with me in the studio today. His name's Mr. Alma West. And if you haven't seen some of his shenanigans on YouTube, you definitely need to check him out and listen to some of his home-brewed music out there. It's fantastic, and he is a local shore musician, and even his age might surprise you, but don't listen to his age, listen to his music, because it's pretty phenomenal. I've been listening to him tear up some guitar licks, and so I'm lucky enough to have him sitting next to me. Good afternoon, Alma. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
And I've been listening to you play guitar here. What kind of effect are you using?
I'm pretty much running it raw, but I'm using a Digitech pedal straight into an amp. I'm just using a little bit of delay and a little bit of reverb, along with some distortion.
Great. And is it what particular model of Digitech is that?
RP90.
An RP90. It's a Digitech RP90. Thank you. And so I'd like to know who your influences are. And I noticed, of course, I've met your dad, Mr. Greg West, who is also a great musician, guitarist, and tell me a little bit about your early influences and when you started playing the guitar.
All right, so when I first started playing guitar, I was into, the old style kind of metal, 80s, 70s, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, all that stuff, and very recently I've gotten more into, or I would say very recently, about 3 years ago, I started getting into the more modern heavy metal, which is very technical, and some of my main influence guitar players are like Sinister Gates from Avenged Sevenfold, AJ Minette from The Human Abstract. All of them are like really music theory influenced, technical, classically influenced, and all my sound really pretty much comes from just them, is a combination of them two. And of course you have my dad, who taught me from the start. And
what kind of basics did your dad teach you?
He taught me the very essential basics, like simple chords, simple everything, how to, a few scales, and later on he started teaching me a little bit of music theory, and I kind of took off with that. He showed me some scales, some like motet and different musical structures and everything.
Nice. And right now, what kind of music are you listening to in general? And I listened to what you were talking about, some of your later influences, but what do you have in your CD player right now?
A lot of modern metal. I've got a little bit of old AC/DC on it, and surprisingly enough, you'll never expect this from a metalhead, but I've got some classical in my music. I've got a bunch of I got variety in it. I have a little bit of country, a little bit of rock, a little bit of pop, but mostly it's just dominantly metal.
Oh, good. So you got a pretty wide tone palette and a palette of music that you've been listening to. That's good. That's good that you're exposed to all that. And when did you learn about YouTube and putting your stuff on YouTube?
I learned about YouTube when I first started on YouTube. I was about maybe 9, 8. I just made like an account because I've been into YouTube ever since my brother Mike showed me some stuff on YouTube, some videos, and I was just kind of interested. I've always ended up watching videos from I was like 6, and I made an account when I was like 8 or whatever, and I really didn't post anything practical or musical until 2 or 3 years ago. And I took down those videos because I sucked.
That's the nice thing about YouTube. I like that. A little better than the one take you probably would get on a spot on NBC or CBS, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about your technique, because you got a lot of technical stuff going on in your playing. But first of all, I'd love to hear about your tuning. What kind of tuning do you use?
The tuning I generally use will either be drop B, which is B, F sharp, B, E, F, or C sharp, and G sharp. I might have mixed up the last two. But anyways, that's just kind of a low tuning. It's like 2.5 steps down from your standard tuning.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of use it because it gives it more of a crunchy, deep, heavier feel to it. It's used a lot more in modern metal, and it just allows more room for riffs, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That's the one thing I noticed about that tuning. It's real dark sounding, real rich, dark sounding tonality. And what kind of let's talk about your right hand, because you got a pretty devastating right hand, like with alternate picking and sweep picking. Do you like to mix the two up, or what is do you have any favorites that you like to use, or?
Mostly I prefer a lot of alternative picking and sweep picking, most generally because, that allows a lot of speed to it, increases your right hand's accuracy, and then once you start moving on to the other strings, it'll build that accuracy, then you can start switching between, and that'll kind of give you a little bit more ability to play.
Okay.
And then sweep picking will kind of give you a little bit more around getting across the fretboard, because once I started sweep picking, I couldn't do it worth anything, and then later on, once I finally got sweep picking down, string skipping was suddenly easier for me.
And how often do you practice a day? How many hours a day do you practice?
There used to be, when I was still homeschooled, I practiced like 10 hours a day, but since school started, I get about, every afternoon I'll sit down for an hour or two maybe and play, usually just throughout the day, because I got things to do.
So listeners, did you hear that? I hope you heard that really, really well, because you hear me always finish up a guitar tips by don't forget to practice. This guy's practicing 10 hours a day at some points. So that should give you some food for thought if you want to get to a certain degree or certain level of musicianship and crazy chops. 10 hours a day. Wow, I'm impressed, Alma. That's pretty amazing. 10 hours a day. The last time I heard somebody talk about that were Steve Vai's world famous 10-hour practice sessions. I don't know if you ever read any of his columns or anything. He talked about his 10-hour practice things. Anyway, I thought I would just a little footnote there. And so I have to ask you this silly question, but how old are you?
13.
13. And you have a work ethic, 10 hours a day, you have a work ethic of a professional musician. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Half of that can come from just no social life.
You'll probably have a lot once you're famous. Probably more than you want, but... I understand that you are also trying to create a metal fest on the shore.
Yeah, so it's kind of an idea that I just kind of brainstorming something I could do while I was thinking of Decimate Studios and everything, my own recording studio. And anyways, I just wanted to do something to get metal music more around on the shore because, not to be a stereotype or anything, but you hear a lot of, or too much country and stuff and rap, but you never hear any metalheads around here. So I just want to get all the metalheads on the shore together. I'm thinking about, I hope I can get ESO or something to do it and invite some, Virginia metal bands around and have them come and play a day. Sometime this summer. I want it to be on July 21st. I'm calling it Doomsday Fest because this is 2012. The Mayans predict it to be the end of the world.
Right. That's a good strategy. I like that, Doomsday Fest.
I would have it on the 21st, the exact day the Mayans predicted, but I'm sure that'll be way too cold.
Yeah. This is Ted Cathy. I'm sitting here with Alma West, and we'll be right back. WESR. All right, we are back in the studio with Alma West, and I've got a couple more questions for you before we wrap it up for today. I heard that you also have other musicians in your family, so I was wondering if you could just kind of tell me a little bit about that. I know your dad is, but apparently you have quite a musical family. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody in our family that can't play guitar. Even Val can play a little bit, right? We got my brother Chris, who plays bass and flute, and I don't even know what other kind of things he can play. He just plays a lot. You have my brother Mike. He plays guitar and piano, right? And my sister Val, she didn't get much of a musical bug, but I'm sure she could play a little bit of guitar. She could play a few chords maybe, and she plays piano, I think, and I think she played cornet too. So I'm not too sure about that. My sister Jess plays guitar and piano and sings, and yeah, and I myself play guitar, a little bit of piano, bass, guitar, a little bit of drums, and alto saxophone.
Wow, multi-talented family, and you play several instruments. That's amazing. And what are your future plans? What do you want for yourself? Or I mean, I know that's kind of a big question to ask anybody, but
especially a 13-year-old.
That's right.
Well, one of the careers I want to go for, if I'm anything with music, is either teach guitar and maybe run a little recording studio around here, and yeah, just be an audio engineer, work with different musicians, get my own studio maybe.
Nice. Would it be on the Eastern Shore?
I doubt it.
You got to bring some of that back.
We'll bring it back. We'll have a mini studio around this area.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Alma. Thank you very much for giving us your time, and good luck to everything with you in the future. We'll certainly be tuning in. I know I'll be tuning in to hear what you're going to be playing next. I'm excited about it. So thank you very much for appearing.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. This has been Ted Cathy here on Guitar Tips, and make sure after hearing this interview that you don't forget to practice. Would you like any last words, Alma? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's alright. What he said, practice, never give up on music, you can always get better, and any talent you have, just keep on working on it. Don't let don't let people stereotype you on your age. That's one big thing with me, because you'll get a lot of people that'll go on YouTube. It's like, oh, you're 13, you can't play well or whatever, and yeah.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. I don't think I could have said that better myself, or anybody could say that better. Thank you, Alma, for putting that in there. And this has been another episode of Ted's Guitar Tips here on WESR 103.3. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Ted, and thanks, Alma. We've got a wide variety of music out here on the Eastern Shore.